Cannibalistic horror from dying breed, 2008 explained. We have reviewed a handful of Australian horror movies on this channel, and today we bring for you another Australian classic from 2008. The horror genre encompasses a lot, but the ones from down under sure love their deadly animals. However, get some popcorn and settle in for this one, because it isn't animals that are doing the killing and the eating in this one. Jody Dwyer directed the 2008 Australian horror film Dying Breed, which stars Leigh, Whannell and Nathan Phillips. The prologue of this Don't Go in the Woods thriller echoes the real character of Alexander Pearce, a 19th century convict who was on the run in Tasmania and was widely believed to have turned to cannibalism to survive. The white history of Australia, and in particular Tasmania, or Van Diemen's Land as it was once known, is littered with tragedies. The island's original status as a draconian dumping ground for British convicts assured that it was a place reeking of terrible inhumanity. The setting is both gorgeous and dangerous, and the picture proceeds at a fast enough speed to maintain the tension. When the protagonists wind up in their backyard, they encounter a culture that has lived in a certain way of life for a long time and fight back to save their lives. Thus, let's take a dive into the world of cannibalism, Tasmanian devils, and unspeakable horrors.
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
I'm hungry.
Some species are better off dead. Dying Breed, 2008. The film had its world premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2008. It has an MA 15+ rating for strong horror violence and a sex scene, as well as blood and gore. In 2009, it was a part of the third After Dark Horror Fest. One of the posters was banned in Australia due to the gruesome image, but it was nonetheless allowed to be displayed in cinema foyers and online. This movie is classified as an Ozploitation film because it explores the Australian outback setting, along with making it look scary and practically calling Indigenous communities cannibals. But that is a discussion for another day. Let us see what exactly happened in this horror movie, and how did 4 young people literally end up in the jaws of these cannibals. Nina's sister vanished in the Australian bush 8 years ago while seeking the legendary Tasmanian tiger. Nina sets out to continue her sister's work with only one clue, a snapshot of a mystery paw print. Nina and her squad, however, will face cannibalistic descendants of a 19th century maniac known as the Pie Man. Nina and her boyfriend Matt are planning a vacation to Tasmania in search of the apparently extinct Tasmanian tiger, along with Jack's friend Matt and his girlfriend Rebecca, who agree to finance the trip. Her efforts are bolstered by a paw print discovered by her older sister in a remote region of the island some years before her body was suddenly discovered in the Pieman River. A terrible idea, but again, horror movies wouldn't quite exist without people having terrible ideas. The 4 buddies go on a riverside nature hike in search of the fabled Tasmanian tiger, take a vehicle, cross the river with a spooky boatman, and arrive there. It's clear that there are fish out of water in a huge sea as they encounter the locals, who are often old school, rough around the edges, and unintentionally questionable. Matt notices a tiny girl on the boat playing a game with yellow-tinted teeth as they arrive. When Matt inquires about her activities, she recites a rhyme before biting Matt's hand. They then spend the night in a run-down motel close to a meat pie factory, where they encounter strange and spooky residents. This should have red flag number 1, but they dismiss the odd behaviour of the locals as simply customs they did not understand. The gang then sets out on a boat in the river that runs through the woodland the next day. They decide to camp in the woods in a cave, and later that night, Matt and Nina come across one of the Tasmanian tigers prowling through the undergrowth. Having finally spotted the beast and what she thought was the species that had killed her sister, Nina hurries to retrieve her camera to photograph the tiger, but it had already bolted into the woods. Because obtaining confirmation of the tiger's presence was important to Nina's research, the party goes into the dark after it, using their cell phones as light. As they recklessly venture into the outdoors with no preparation in the hopes of catching some proof, the horror slowly begins to surface. What is the horror, you will ask? A 19th century descendant and family living in those places, led by a flesh-eating madman known as the Pie Man, apparently enjoys the taste of human flesh. Thus, while the four friends pursued the Tasmanian tiger, they had no idea that they were being pursued as well. This takes us back to the very first scene, where we are shown that in Tasmania in the 1800s, Alexander Pierce, dubbed the Pie Man, had escaped into the bush and was pursued by police officers with dogs. A police officer approached him and attempted to kill Pierce, but his gun did not discharge. Pierce then bit the cop's neck, ripping a large chunk out of his throat, and killed him. While fleeing from there, he was accosted by a Tasmanian tiger, which he satisfies by tossing a piece of the policeman over to the predator to devour, marking the beginning of his survival story and what led him to develop a taste for human flesh. Promptly, they start being hunted down one by one. Rebecca is kidnapped and eaten by a cannibal, unbeknownst to the rest of the gang. When the other three reassemble, they notice that Rebecca is missing and Nina's pant legs are stained with blood. As you may expect, there are some disturbing moments, such as aftermath shots of body parts, flesh-eating goodness and other such things. A sequence in which the pie guy practically takes the jaw off one of his victims is even more horrific. There are a few extra kicks thrown in here and there, but primarily it's just chase and scream routines around the woods. We see a lot of bear traps because the Pie Man likes to employ them to help him catch his prey. What is the essence? People from the city go to the forest and tamper with nature. Nature does not take kindly to this and responds in the only manner it knows how. Nature is a family of flesh eaters this time, and the hunt continues. The party searches the woodland in a desperate attempt to locate Rebecca. One of the cannibals kills the local ferryman, who tries to help them. When they arrive at an abandoned mine, they discover Rebecca's body strung up on meat hooks, and Jack is killed by an animal trap. Matt seeks refuge underground, where he discovers gruesome evidence of the cannibals' prior deeds. Nina finds a railway bridge crossing a fast-flowing river, but she is cornered by two cannibals. She pushes herself from the high bridge on purpose. After apologizing to Matt, the ferryman's wife kills one of the cannibals, then slits her own throat. The police arrive at the hotel later that night, but there is no evidence of any of the missing guests. Matt feels depressed and tired as the cops leave, and he prepares to leave when he is unexpectedly attacked. The movie reaches its climax, and this is a film that ends with no survivors or rays of hope, making it quite grim and dark. Later, he is seen paralyzed in a chair as one of the cannibals explains that, like the tiger, their settlement must remain hidden to thrive. The cannibal then unlocks a door, revealing Nina, who is still alive and is ready to be raped for breeding purposes. While Matt is watching, a young girl, who is Nina's niece, approaches him and removes a set of dentures, revealing a set of sharply distorted teeth. How is she Nina's niece? Well, the fate that awaits Nina is the same fate that Nina's sister had undergone when she disappeared all those years ago. Nina's phone, which Matt had given them, displays a snapshot of the Tasmanian tiger as the cops drive away. Only 1 or 2 frames show what Pieman's pie is made of during the first seconds of the end credits. Any guesses? Well, it is made of human body parts, flesh, blood, and so on. This film is also one of 3 feature films about Irish convict Alexander Pierce, made in Australia in the late 2000s. Dying Breed, 2008, Van Diemen's Land, 2009, and The Last Confession of Alexander Pierce, 2008, are the 3 films. Why should you watch Dying Breed? Jeffrey Hall's cinematography is hauntingly beautiful, evoking the solitude and quiet terror of Tasmania's hinterlands. There's little else in The Dying Breed that nobody's ever seen before in terms of plot, but the visuals make it a must-have experience. Dwyer has added all manner of unsavoury foreign elements to this cinematically unexplored landscape, much like the convict runners of old. The general city slickers versus rednecks dynamic is well known, but horror fans will recognise the more specific connections to Deliverance 1972, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1974, The Hills Have Eyes trilogy, The Wrong Turn flicks, and Timber Falls 2000. 2007. Even cliches from the horrors genre's past, such as the frightening young girl, comedic cops, and the foot return. What is extremely interesting is that this movie is based on a true story. Alexander Pierce was an Irish thief who was sentenced to 7 years in a prison colony in Van Diemen's Land, now Tasmania, Australia. He managed to break out of prison on multiple occasions. He supposedly became cannibal during one of these escapes, slaughtering his accomplices one by one. He allegedly killed and ate him in pieces in another escape with the body. He was eventually apprehended and hung for murder in Hobart, where he was later dissected. Pierce's descendants, according to Dying Breed, continue to live deep in the jungle and practice some culinary customs. The film is a character study set between 1939 and 1942 against a dramatic backdrop of events in northern Australia at the time, including the World War II bombing of Darwin. Critics gave Dying Breed mediocre reviews, and it made $211 million on a $130 million budget. The film did turn over a profit, along with earning a place in the Hall of Cannibalism fame. Worth a watch, in my opinion. We have a life to protect, a tradition, one character named Bill Brown says near the end of Dying Breed. It may not be groundbreaking, and it may even appear unclean and incestuous, yet this film's bloodline is rooted in a lengthy horror heritage. There's plenty of blood and torn up body parts for any gorehounds out there. This one is a movie for you all.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.
Should have been done when you were a pup.